Hey there, you guys. Ana Cortez here, author of the Playing Card Oracles and Oracle Alchemy, back with a viewer request. How to get cards that seem contradictory to work together in your readings. So I'm going to talk about my own techniques, and these are techniques that you could apply to any card deck you're using or any way of reading cards that you have. And I'm using the Playing Card Oracle Alchemy edition here. The imagery is quite strong in this deck, and it's easy to feel like cards are contradicting each other. And sometimes cards do have an abrasive kind of relationship with each other. But always cards have some kind of relationship to each other. And I find that if I'm focusing solely on the book meanings or the memorized meanings for cards, I'm going to have more trouble finding where the cards overlap than if I use sort of a common sense approach to cards and pull in card meanings to sort of back up what's happening on the table. So for example, let's just take cards in two card combinations. Two strong cards on the table. One's red, one's black, one's female, one's male. How do these cards work together? This card isn't even really a person, right? It's more of like a little depiction, an animated depiction of a wind card. It's the north wind here. But I do have a character on the table, someone who looks like it could be my client, my querent, or someone that my client is asking about. So this can become sort of the heroine of my story, and this is what she's experiencing here. The north wind, now I'm going to pull in my memorized meanings, is a very forceful kind of wind. It can feel very harsh. It's the kind of wind you have to seek shelter from. And she could be going through something really intense in her life right now. And maybe this wind has blown her upside down, right? She appeared like that. And, maybe she's feeling very disoriented, unconfident, that kind of thing. And it would depend on my question and other cards drawn. But already I'm feeling how these cards are overlapping and coming together. So I just pulled a little bit of what I knew about these cards in to just sort of a natural relationship between a female character and a strong force that's represented by this card. Let's try another combination. Let's just take a look at cards. What if we had those two? So again, not going to my memorized meanings first, but just looking at the cards and seeing what I see from sort of a visual point of view. Again, I have a character, don't I? A person. This could be my querent or someone my querent is asking about, and he's looking at this card over here, like the back of this card, almost in sort of a sneaky way or from an outside perspective. And this card is very wild. I mean, we have the faun here, who's half man, half animal, and he's conjuring something under the full moon here in this forest glen, And this card is kind of very quietly looking on, almost in secret. It's a black card, it's in the background. And maybe this card doesn't really approve of what this card is doing, or maybe he's very curious and yet it's not his nature, right? This card, I know from memorized meanings, can be very set in his ways. And this card is all about experimentation and trying new things. So I have a very sort of interesting relationship between the cards coming out that I was sort of tipped off by just by the way this card is looking at this card. Okay, let's pull two more cards. Two very strong cards. Two very strong images. Okay, so we have two characters on the table. A very strong queen, you can see her, very powerful looking queen, and yet she's tipped on her head. This peddler's ace, a very sneaky looking character, looks like he's trying to pull one over on the old queen there. You know, she needs to be very careful who she's dealing with in this situation. And that goes along with the card meanings that I know for the Queen of Hearts and the Five of Spades. And it's just sort of logical, you know. This is a cautionary card. This is a sneaky peddler who's got something up his sleeve, who's not always completely honest about what's going on there. And this queen is very determined to have her way. And she might employ somebody who's, you know, a little dubious if she wanted what she wanted badly enough. So again, I'm pulling meanings in, but only as part of a larger story, as part of a larger feeling I'm getting by looking at the cards and just using some visual clues. And this is something we've got to just do over and over again. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And two card combinations are great little fun practice. So here again we have a character of our story, and that's an easy way to start if you can identify one card as the main character of what's going on. And in this playing card oracle system, all the court cards represent people or personalities, and so that's kind of a nice way to be able to learn how to work with your cards. So this is the character of my story, and this is what's happening to her. You know, this card is called the Rivals. We see two characters sort of pitted against each other, with the moon and the sun, you know, battling for the sky territory up there. And she may, you know, be feeling like she's met her match in some way, or she's in a fierce competitive environment, and then other cards, you know, could fill the story out. And the question obviously would help as well. Let's look at another two card combination. Good old Nickel Maya. And who else? Let's do her. Okay. Well, we have two characters now in our story, right? And we don't have any other cards to play off of, so we're just going to try to establish what their relationship is here. Just from a visual point of view, they're both kind of looking forward. He's actually looking a little bit away from her. I really like using just simple visual clues, just seeing what's on the table, and then I look for other things that back up or support what I'm seeing. So I feel that these two are very independent, even though they're standing together in whatever situation is being depicted on the table. Maybe it's a marriage, maybe it's a business partnership, but I'm feeling like they're both very independent of each other. Even though they're both red cards, right? We have one card in the heart suit and one card in the diamond suit. So in this way of working with cards, this is water and fire. And water and fire are a very challenging element combination. Just imagine water and fire together in nature. They would clash quite a bit. And, maybe that's the way their relationship is. They just agitate each other, or they easily annoy each other. Fire is extinguished by water. Water puts out the fire, and maybe these two are just not getting along. Even though both of these cards are typically very sweet, rather docile cards, they just don't get along. And that could be the starting place for a relationship here. Maybe they have a daughter, and, the daughter's trying to choose sides, perhaps. I don't know. We'd have to look at more cards and listen to the question. Maybe there's a very life-changing event that's taking place. And maybe the daughter's bringing these two characters together. Maybe this event and this younger female is bringing these two otherwise discordant cards into a situation where they have to work together. So, just playing around, looking at suits and the elements associated for clues into how cards relate to each other. Let's turn these both around. We have a king and a jack. So already we have a kind of relationship where one character may be a little older than the other character. This could be a teacher and a student, or a father and a son, that kind of thing. Or this character could be learning something from this card, kind of an apprentice type situation. And just by looking at the suits now, this is a fire card, this is an air card. And again, whatever system you're working with, it might be different, but you can look at the elements for clues. And fire and air are very symbiotic elements, very playful together. They enjoy each other's company. Air feeds fire. Fire warms the air. They like each other. And in this case, this character's looking away from this king. But this king's kind of looking over this card's shoulder a little bit, checking in on him, making sure he's doing all right there. So I get a helpful relationship, and definitely kind of mentor relationship from the visual perspective as well as from other things. And we haven't even really looked at the memorized or book meanings for these cards, but that would really fill this out very nicely. So there's so many ways to work with cards, and I guess my main piece of advice is don't get too hung up on the memorized meanings. You have to look at cards from different perspectives and to see how things might be working together. Now we have a different combination. You can just do this for a long time, and it's just great practice. So we have a heart card here. This is the Jack of Hearts, which is the water element, and an air card here, a club card, the Five of Clubs. So air and water is a very misty combination. It's a place where magic and illusion can take place. And this card is hiding something behind his back. You know, the Jack of Hearts has a lot of ways he can show up in a reading, can go a lot of different ways. So with just 2 cards, we're just getting sort of a rough idea. But it's interesting that this card is behind his back. So this guy might be in for a bit of a surprise, right? Look at this figure here. Just look at the way the eyes are bulging out on the 5 of clubs. Kind of hilarious. This guy is definitely very surprised at what's taking place. And if you know the meanings for this card, that definitely fits in, you know. And because this card is kind of sneaking up behind the back of that card, I would say this guy's in for a surprise. Or he's trying to hide something that's very unruly and out of control, right? Depending on how the question's asked and maybe other cards in the layout or just the intuitive hit I'm getting from my client. But either one of those interpretations would go along with the book meanings or the memorized meanings for these cards. So I know my memorized meanings, and yet I'm just looking at my cards, being very present with them, looking for what seems to be happening visually on the table, and thinking about the elements represented and how those blend together. So these are just some ideas from you. But the real trick is to just keep laying out cards, keep interpreting cards, keep practicing, and it just gets more and more fun, you guys. I've been working with the same method of card reading for over 30 years, and it's always been captivating and amazing. But, you know, the more comfortable you get with it, the more fun it is, and they never quit amazing me, which is the really great part. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you back next time. Bye-bye.